out. If you don't talk to me about this, I can't help you.
I don't want you to help me.
What do you want?
I want you to listen.
And then what?
Share it.
With?
Whoever you share with. Whoever you know, the people you're close to. Are there any?
Why don't you tell others?
I'm not for this world. Not anymore.
What world, then? In your memories? Locked away in your mind for the rest of your life? Is that all you want?
No, I want to finish this.
Finish what?
Telling you what I know.
What makes you think what you know is any different than what other people know?
I had different teachers.
Okay. So, I'm supposed to pass on your work.
Yeah, for what it's worth.
What made you pick me?
A look in your eye, and you seem to have half a brain.
Thank you. What luck?
That luck. Curious, searching, unsatisfied, slightly pissed off.
I'm the one.
One in control, huh?
Yes.
Who's in control? So who is in control? Huh? Are you? Am I? Guards outside? The warden in his office? Yeah? Who's in control? Testing, testing, testing. 1, 2, 3, 4. Dr. Ethan Powell interviewing Dr. Theo Corder. Now, this will be a very simple test. Pass or fail, life or death. You ready, Jean? Now, you write on this paper what I have taken from you. What have you lost? Write it! Write it! Wrong. Never had control. You only thought you had it. An illusion, tabby bourgeois. And what do you control? For sure, huh? The volume in your stereo, the air conditioning in your car? What else? What else? All right. Another chance. You were nervous. Too much pressure. Try again. What have you lost? What did I take? Write it. Write it! You're a fool, Juha. You think you were free? Where were you going at 2 o'clock today? Into the gym, right? In the morning, your wake-up call. In the middle of the night, when you wake up sweating with your heart pounding. What is it that has you all tied up, Juha? Tied up in little knots. Is it ambition? Yeah. You're no mystery to me, boy. I used to be you. Okay. One last chance. You think I won't do it? That's one psychiatrist less to the world. I'm already deep in the pit. So what can they do to me? Last try. Get it right. What have you lost? What did I take from you? Write it. Yeah. Congratulations.
Under and back of the universe of time, space, and change is ever to be found the substantial reality, the fundamental truth, the kybalion. All thinkers in all lands and in all times have assumed the necessity for postulating the existence of this substantial reality. All philosophies worthy of the name have been based upon this thought. Men have given to this substantial reality many names. Some have called it by the term of deity under many titles. Others have called it the infinite and eternal energy. Others have tried to call it matter, but all have acknowledged its existence, and it is self-evident it needs no argument. Ancient and modern Hermetic masters have called this underlying power, this substantial reality, by the name of the All, which term we consider the most comprehensive of the many terms applied by man to that which transcends both names and terms. The inner nature of the All is unknowable. This must be so, for naught but the All itself can comprehend its own nature and being. The All in itself is and must ever be unknowable. All the theories, guesses, and speculations of the theologians and metaphysicians regarding the inner nature of the All are but the childish efforts of mortal minds to grasp the secret of the infinite. And still more presumptuous are those who attempt to ascribe to the All the personalities, qualities, properties, characteristics, and attributes of themselves, ascribing to the All the human emotions, feelings, and characteristics, even down to the pettiest qualities of mankind, such as jealousy, susceptibility to flattery and praise, desire for offerings and worship, all of the other survivals from the days of the childhood of the race. While the essential nature of the All is unknowable, there are certain truths connected with its existence which the human mind finds itself compelled to accept. That which is the fundamental truth, the substantial reality, is beyond true naming, but the wise men call it the All, the kybalion. In its essence, the All is unknowable, the kybalion, but the report of reason must be hospitably received and treated with respect, the kybalion. The human reason, whose reports we must accept so long as we think at all, informs us as follows regarding the All, and that without attempting to remove the veil of unknowable. The All must be all that really is. There can be nothing existing outside of the All, else the All would not be the All. The All must be infinite, infinite in time or eternal, infinite in space or everywhere, for there is nothing else to define, confine, bound, limit, or restrict the All. It must have always continuously existed forever, for there is nothing to destroy it. It cannot be otherwise than continuous in space, without break, cessation, separation, or interruption. The All must be infinite in power or absolute, for there is nothing to limit, restrict, restrain, confine, disturb, or condition it. It is subject to no other power, for there is no other power. The All must be immutable or not subject to change in its real nature, for there is nothing to where it changes upon it, nothing into which it could change, nor from which it could have changed. It cannot be added to, nor subtracted from, increased or diminished, nor become greater or lesser in any respect whatsoever. It must have always been, and must always remain just what it is now, the all. There has never been, is not now, and never will be anything else into which it can change. The all, being infinite, absolute, eternal, and unchangeable, it must follow that anything finite, changeable, fleeting, and conditioned cannot be the all. And as there is nothing outside of the all, in reality, then any and all such finite things must be as nothing in reality. We see around us that which is called matter, which forms the physical foundation of all forms. Is the all merely matter? Not at all. Matter cannot manifest life or mind, and as life and mind are manifested in the universe, the all cannot be matter, for nothing rises higher than its own source. Nothing is ever manifested in an effect that is not in the cause. Nothing is evolved as a consequence that is not involved as an antecedent. Material science has abandoned the theory of matter and rests on the basis of energy. Then, is the all mere energy or force? Not energy or force as the materialists use the term, for their energy and force are blind, mechanical things, devoid of life or mind. Life and mind can never evolve from blind energy or force. Nothing can rise higher than its source. Nothing is evolved unless it is involved. Nothing manifests in the effect unless it is in the cause. And so, the all cannot be mere energy or force, for if it were, then there would be no such thing as life and mind in existence. And we know better than that, for we are alive and use your mind to consider this very question. And so are those who claim that energy or force is everything. What is there then that is higher than matter or energy that we know to be existent in the universe? Life and mind. Do you mean to tell us that the all is life and mind? Yes and no is the answer. If you mean life and mind as we poor petty mortals know them, we say no. The all is not that. But what kind of life and mind do you mean? The answer is living mind. The all is infinite living mind. The illuminated call it spirit. We are justified in thinking of spirit as an infinite living mind principle, at the same time acknowledging that we cannot fully understand it. We must either do this or stop thinking of the matter at all. Let us now proceed to a consideration of the word principle. Principle is that which creates, constitutes, governs, sustains, and contains all. What must principle do first? First, it must create, because it cannot handle anything until it has created the very thing it has to handle. Thus, the first activity must be creation. However, creation does not mean order. It may be chaos. So that there should be order, it must constitute, that is, assign to each phenomena its proper place, which it will keep eternally. What is the next activity of principle? It must bring forth out of itself its laws, changeless laws, by which it governs that which it has created and that which it has put in order, constituted. But the act of creation, constitution, and governing may be but for a moment, there is nothing in these three activities which ensures their continuance. After principle has created, constituted, and governed, it must sustain its very creation so as to make it permanent and eternal. And finally, if principle creates everything there is out of itself, it must then contain within itself all its creation. It must be the circumference from within which springs all creation. And since principle from its own center creates all and becomes its own circumference, therefore it is the center and circumference of all. Principle is all. The all, infinite living mind principle, is represented by the symbol of a circle, having nothing outside of itself and nothing within itself. The circle, however, must not be interpreted as conveying the idea of limitation. Rather, it is intended to convey the idea of limitlessness. The symbol, although the best possible for the purpose, is inadequate. This by reason of the impossibility of representing the infinite by a finite symbol. The all, infinite living mind principle, is a nothing rather than a thing, and yet not such a nothing as implies notness or not, but rather such a nothing as implies the possibility of everything, yet without the limitation of thingness. The all, infinite living mind principle cannot be considered a thing, for it has none of the characteristics of a thing. Roughly speaking, it may be defined as a no thing, containing within itself the possibility of infinite thingness, or the infinite possibility of things. The all, infinite living mind principle must be thought of as the absolute container of everything, whether manifest or unmanifest, for outside of the all there is only nothingness, or more strictly speaking, there is no outside of the all. You've made it this far. That's outstanding. The next part of this presentation is called the eternal parent. When a mind has been stretched by a new idea, it is impossible for that mind to assume its original dimension. So, if you like what you've heard so far, I invite you now to entertain the eternal parent. The eternal parent was wrapped in the sleep of the cosmic night. Light there was not, for the flame of spirit was not yet kindled. Time there was not, for change had not begun. Things there were not, for form had not presented itself. Action there was not, for there were no things to act. The pairs of opposites there were not, for there were no things to manifest polarity. The eternal parent, causeless, indivisible, changeless, infinite, rested in unconscious, dreamless sleep. Other than the eternal parent, there was naught, neither real or apparent. The only adequate symbol of the eternal parent would be that of infinite space, and that cannot be represented by a sign, for no matter how wide the circle might be drawn, there will always be space beyond it. The strength of this symbol of infinite space as indicating the all, the infinite unmanifest, is perceived when the mind tries to think or even imagine the absence of infinite space, either as absent before its creation or else as absent after its destruction. It will, of course, be discovered that the human mind and the human imagination finds it impossible to think of space being absent in either event. Infinite space, therefore, has always been the accepted occult and esoteric symbol by means of which men are able to think of the infinite unmanifest, the eternal parent, wrapped in the sleep of the cosmic night. In one of the ancient occult catechisms, the question was asked, what is that which ever has been, is now, ever shall be, whether there be a universe or not, and whether there be gods or not? And the answer is space. The illuminate and truly wise regard the fact of the infinite unmanifest, the absolute essence, only under the symbol of the infinite sea of pure space, resting in a state of absolute calm and absolute transparency, the which the mortal eye gazes and seems to see but nothing, but which the illuminate intuition knows to be allness instead of nothingness, absolute and infinite being instead of nothingness, infinite life instead of death. Though it cannot be perceived by mortal sense, and though it transcends the highest effort of both intellect and imagination to conceive a picture, yet the highest reports of pure reason informs us that it must be present, and the highest reports of intuitive faith renders it impossible to doubt its all-presence and reality. To the ignorant and half-wise, this symbol may seem to indicate nothing, but to the illuminate and truly wise, it is seen to represent absolute allness of reality. Let us now proceed to a consideration of the nature of the universe as a whole and in its parts. What is the universe? We have seen that there can be nothing outside of the all. Then is the universe the all? No, this cannot be, because the universe seems to be made up of many and is constantly changing, and in other ways it does not measure up to the ideas that we are compelled to accept regarding the all. Then if the universe be not the all, then it must be nothing. Such is the inevitable conclusion of the mind at first thought. But this will not satisfy the question, for we are sensible of the existence of the universe. Then, if the universe is neither the all nor nothing, what can it be? Let us examine this question. If the universe exists at all, or seems to exist, it must proceed in some way from the all. It must be a creation of the all. But as something can never come from nothing, from what could the all have created it? Some philosophers have answered this question by saying that the all created the universe from itself, that is, from the being and substance of the all. But this will not do, for the all cannot be subtracted from nor divided. And then again, if this be so, Would not each particle in the universe be aware of it being the all? The all could not lose its knowledge of itself, nor actually become an atom. Some men, indeed, realizing the all is indeed all, and also recognizing that they, the men, existed, have jumped to the conclusion that they and the all were identical, and have filled the air with the shouts of "I am God." But what indeed is the universe? If it be not the all, and not yet created by the all, having separated itself into fragments, what else can it be? Of what else can it be made? This is the great question. Let us examine it carefully. We find here that the principle of correspondence comes to our aid here. As above, so below. As below, so above, may be pressed into service at this point. Let us endeavor to get a glimpse of the workings on higher planes by examining those on our own. The principle of correspondence must apply to this as well as to other problems. Let us see. On his own plane of being, how does man create? Well, first, he may create by making something out of outside materials, but this will not do, for there are no materials outside of the all with which it may create. Well, then, secondly, man procreates or reproduces his own kind by the process of begetting, which is self-multiplication accomplished by transferring a portion of his substance to his offspring. But this will not do because the all cannot transfer or subtract a portion of itself, nor can it reproduce or multiply itself. In the first place, there would be a taking away, and in the second case, a multiplication or addition to the all, both thoughts being an absurdity. Is there no third way in which man creates? Yes, there is. He creates mentally, and in so doing, he uses no outside materials, nor does he reproduce himself. And yet his spirit pervades the mental creation. Following the principle of correspondence, we are justified in considering that the all creates the universe mentally, in a manner akin to the process whereby man creates mental images. The all can create in no other way except mentally, without either using materials, and there is none to use, or else reproducing itself, which is also impossible. There is no escape from this conclusion of the reason. The universe and all it contains is a mental creation of the all. Verily indeed, all is mind. The all creates in its infinite mind countless universes, which exist for eons of time. And yet, to the all, the creation, development, decline, and death of 1,000,000 universes is as the twinkling of an eye. The infinite mind of the all is the womb of the universe. This idea may seem startling to some of you who are hearing it for the first time. The teachings is that the all stands in a way apart from the actual mental creation of the universe. It projects its will toward the feminine principle, whereupon the latter begins the actual work of the creation of the universe, from simple centers of activities on to man, and then on and on, still higher, all according to well-established and firmly enforced laws. While all, that is the universe, is in the all, the infinite mind, it is equally true that the all, the infinite mind, is in all, that is the universe. The teachings are to the effect that the all is immanent in, that is, remaining within, inherent, abiding within its universe, and in every part, particle, unit, or combination within the universe. The teachings concerning the process of the mental creation of the universe are that at the beginning of the creative cycle, the all, in its aspect of being, projects its will toward its aspect of becoming, and the process of creation begins. The teachings concerning the process of the mental creation of the universe are that at the beginning of the creative cycle, the all, in its aspect of being, projects its will towards its aspect of becoming, and the process of creation begins. It is taught that the process consists of lowering the vibration until a very low degree of vibratory energy is reached, at which point the grossest possible form of matter is manifested. This process is called the stage of evolution, in which the all becomes involved or wrapped up in its creation. This evolutionary stage of creation is sometimes called the outpouring of the divine energy, just as the evolutionary state is called the indrawing. The extreme pole of the creative process is considered to be the furthest removed from the all, while the beginning of the evolutionary state is regarded as the beginning of the return swing of the pendulum of rhythm, a coming home idea. The teachings are that during the outpouring, the vibrations become lower and lower until finally the urge ceases and the return swing begins. But there is this difference, that while in the outpouring the creative forces manifest compactly and as a whole, yet from the beginning of the evolutionary or indrawing stage, there is manifested the law of individualization, that is, this tendency to separate into units of force, so that finally that which left the all as unindividualized energy returns to its source as countless highly developed units of life, having risen higher and higher in the scale by means of physical, mental, and spiritual evolution. The word meditation is used in describing the process of the mental creation of the universe in the mind of the all. The word contemplation also being frequently employed, but the idea intended seems to be that of employment of the divine attention. Attention is a word derived from the Latin root meaning to reach out, to stretch out, and so the act of attention is really a mental reaching out, extension of mental energy. The teachings regarding the process of evolution are that the all, having meditated upon the beginning of creation, having thus established the material foundation of the universe, having thought it into existence, then gradually awakens or arouses from its meditation, and in so doing starts into manifestation the process of evolution on the material, mental, and spiritual planes, successively and in order. Thus the upward movement begins, and all begin to move spiritward. Matter becomes less gross. The units spring into being. The combinations begin to form. life appears and manifests in higher and higher forms, and mind becomes more and more in evidence, the vibrations constantly becoming higher. In short, the entire process of evolution in all its phases begins and proceeds according to the established laws of the indwelling process. All of this occupies eons upon eons of man's time, each eon containing countless millions of years. But the Illuminate informs us that the entire creation, including involution and evolution, of a universe is but as the twinkle of the eye to the all. At the end of the countless cycles of eons of time, the all withdraws its attention, its contemplation and meditation of the universe, for the great work is finished, and all is withdrawn into the all, from which it emerged. But mystery upon mysteries, the spirit of each soul is not annihilated, but is infinitely expanded. The created and the creator are merged. The above illustration of the meditation and subsequent awakening from meditation of the all is of course but an attempt to describe the infinite process by a finite example. And yet, as above, so below. The difference is merely in degrees. And just as the all arouses itself from the meditation upon the universe, so does man, in time, cease from manifesting upon the material plane, and withdraws himself more and more into the indwelling spirit, which is indeed the divine ego. There is one more matter of which we desire to speak about in this lesson. We allude to the question which inevitably comes to the mind of all thinkers who have ventured to seek the truth. The question is, why does the all create universes? The question may be asked in different forms, but the above is the gist of the inquiry. Men have striven hard to answer this question, but still there is no answer worthy of the name. Some have imagined that the all had something to gain by it, but this is absurd, for what could the all gain that it did not already possess? Others have sought the answer in the idea that the all wished something to love, and others that it created for pleasure or amusement, or because it was lonely, or to manifest its power. All purely explanations and ideas belonging to the childish period of thought. Others have sought to explain the mystery by assuming that the all found itself compelled to create by reason of its own internal nature, its creative instinct. This idea is in advance of the others, but its weak point lies in the idea of the all being compelled by anything, internal or external. If its internal nature or creative instinct compelled it to do anything, then the internal nature or creative instinct would be the absolute instead of the all, and so accordingly that part of the proposition falls. And yet the all does create and manifest, and seems to find some kind of satisfaction in doing so. And it is difficult to escape the conclusion that in some infinite degree it must have what would correspond to an inner nature or creative instinct, like in man, with correspondingly infinite desire and will. It could not act unless it willed to act. It would not will to act unless it desired to act. It would not desire to act unless it obtained some satisfaction thereby. And all of these things would belong to an inner nature, and might be postulated as existing according to the law of correspondence. But still, we prefer to think of the all as acting entirely free from any influence, internal as well as external. That is the problem which lies at the root of difficulty, and the difficulty that lies at the root of the problem. Strictly speaking, there cannot be said to be any reason whatsoever for the all to act. For a reason implies a cause, and the all is above cause and effect, except when it wills to become a cause, at which time the principle is set into motion. So, you see, the matter is unthinkable, just as the all is unknowable. Just as we say the all merely is, so we are compelled to say that the all acts because it acts. At the last, the all is all reason in itself, all law in itself, all action in itself, and it may be said truthfully that the all is its own reason, its own law, its own act. Or still further, that the all, its reason, its act, its law are one, all being names for the same thing. In the opinion of those who are giving you these present lessons, the answer is locked up in the inner self of the all, along with its secret of being. The law of correspondence, in our opinion, reaches only to that aspect of the all which may be spoken of as the aspect of becoming. Back of that aspect is the aspect of being, in which all laws are lost in law. All principles merge into principle, and the all, the principle, and being are identical, one and the same. Therefore, metaphysical speculation on this point is futile. We go into the matter here merely to show that we recognize the question and also the absurdity of the ordinary answers of metaphysics and theology. In conclusion, it may be of interest to our students to learn that while some of the ancient and modern Hermetic teachers have rather inclined in the direction of applying the principle of correspondence to the question, with the results of the inner nature conclusion, still legends have it that Hermes the Great, when asked this question by his advanced students, answered them by pressing his lips tightly together and saying not a word, indicating that there was no answer. But then, he may have intended to apply the axiom of his philosophy that the lips of wisdom are closed except to the ears of understanding, believing that even his advanced students did not possess the understanding which entitled them to the teaching. At any rate, if Hermes possessed the secret, he failed to impart it. And so far as the world is concerned, the lips of Hermes are closed regarding it. And whether great Hermes hesitated to speak, what mortal may dare to teach? But remember, whatever be the answer to this problem, if indeed there be an answer, the truth remains that while all is in the all, it is equally true that the all is in all. The teaching on this point is emphatic, and we may add the concluding words of the quotation. To him who truly understands this truth has come